creature of evil, but prepare yourself that you do not meet the same fate. Do not be tempted, for there are two things you cannot escape: death and judgment.
It's all the same. Don't mind a little sunshine, but I love that rain. Pass me my shovel, I'm gonna unbear someone today. Welcome to my graveyard where many people say goodbye. Stand under your dime tree where loved ones cry. Been known to steal, but I never lie. And it feeds my wife, and it won't even lose any sleep tonight. Ha ha! I got them Graverobber blues. Oh yeah, I got the Graverobber blues. I got the Graverobber blues. I just can't stop. I'm the kleptomaniac of this dead man's life. Been robbing graves for half my life. Snatch that pearl necklace off your rotting wife, and it won't even lose any sleep tonight. Ha ha! I got them Graverobber blues. Oh yeah! I got the Graverobber blues. I got the Graverobber blues.
Okay, good morning, everybody. How are we all doing today? It is almost June. It's May 31st, 2025. We opened up with Graverobber Blues by the Bloody Jug Band. Yet another one of those bands that should be very famous, but they're not, that I heard in the big pile of free music I got as a radio DJ. Yeah, that does tie directly into the title of the stream, more or less, because the title of the stream refers to Stomp, Clap, Hey music, which is not what the Bloody Jug Band does. Stomp, Clap, Hey, just think more like Mumford & Sons. Stomp, Clap, Hey is essentially mainstreamified, yassified, folk music, bluegrass, or American roots music. Whereas the Bloody Jug Band is sort of what they call gothic country or whatever. So it's kind of similar, but not. Anyway, yes, apparently a famous Stomp, Clap band has been arrested for human trafficking. Womp womp. Pony Throat refers to Stomp, the band with the brooms, have fallen on hard times and resorted to human trafficking. I blame the Blue Man Group. I believe Stomp was a Broadway show, sir. And no, it's not them. It's not the Blue Man Group. Tony Gilbert says he's not a fan of the Blue Man Group. I don't think they're that bad, but they definitely kind of outstayed their welcome. Tony Gilbert says he went fishing this morning. He's hooking some fish right now. That's very cool, sir. I was planning on doing a little fishing myself this summer. I mean, I have this really nice fishing pole I got for the holidays a while back. I still haven't had a chance to use it. Tony Gilbert says Mumford & Sons was everywhere. It was easily the most hated band for a minute. Yes, it's not Mumford & Sons, but a similar band, the Old Time Sailors, a popular sea shanty band in Devon, England, has been arrested for human trafficking. A popular sea shanty band, so says The Guardian, who play at Glastonbury, are at the center of a slavery probe after cops raided the farmhouse. And here they are in their little twee, suspenders and sailor hats. The group's leader has fled and is being sought by cops. Now, it's not the whole group. The old-time sailors have 20 people. It's only 6 of them. Well, actually, 6 people were the only ones who were arrested, so maybe all of them were involved in human trafficking. I don't know. Yeah, their little tour bus got into a crash, and apparently they were running slaves. Well, gee, I mean, they are the old-time sailors, and Shanghaiing was part of the old British naval tradition. It was one of the major casus bellis of the War of 1812, if you recall your history classes. So, if you want to have another round at the Battle of New Orleans, you can do that, old-time sailors. But yes, in all seriousness, I don't know what exactly these slaves were being made to do. Maybe was it sex trafficking? Was it forced labor? The worst thing I can imagine is being forced performances, like being forced to do stomp, clap, hey music for 12 hours a day, every day. Yeah, honestly, I would just jump out of the truck and just let the fates take me at that point. Forced mandolin playing, that is a fate worse than death, sir. The one time where being in a stomp clap band is not the worst thing you could have happen to you. Tony Gober says, "What, Larsen, you fish, buddy?" Not frequently, but on occasion I do angle. I'm not very good at it, I admit. But it's fun. Tony Gober says, "Ew, bro, what's with these musicians trafficking people? God, it's like all the musicians are fucking pirates. What the fuck is going on?" I don't know. But as you can see, it's not a racial thing. It's not a genre thing. You got Diddy doing his stuff. You got the old-time sailors, the old-time slavers, as Pony Throat would put it. Pony Throat puts it best. I assume by old-time sailors, they meant transatlantic old-time sailors. Yep, the old-time triangle trade sailors. I don't know if they were trading these human trafficked people for rum and molasses, but let me see if I can find some info on that. Hop ahead, hop astern, look yonder to the sea. Hi, hello, and so sails we. Yes, Shanghai, it's great. So, that's what's going on in the music world. Human trafficking with the stomp clap people. Alright, what else do we have going on in the world of politics? Well, this isn't really politics, but normally I would do this, the pop culture section, the end of things, but I couldn't think of a better title. But yeah, politics is going great. Not. Okay, let's see what we got going on here. Let's talk about some international politics. Big news happened in France the other day. A video appeared to show Madame Macron basically not quite bitch-slapping her husband, but sort of pie-facing him, like, palming his face and just kind of shoving him back. And they still call that pie-facing, right? I don't know, and I don't really bother to learn. I know, it's been quite a while since I've been involved in unsanctioned street fights, so I don't know all the hip new moves they got going nowadays. But yes, Emmanuel Macron's grandma wife just pie-faced him. Maybe he needed some discipline. I don't know. Candace Owens, in her shining idiocy, seems to be accusing Madame Macron of being a man. I don't think that's true, but there's a little something strange going on with the Macron family. If we'll all recall, Brigitte Macron was a 30-something teacher who was married and had children when she started teaching Emmanuel Macron in middle school, language arts. I was about to say English, but of course it's French, so I don't think that would be what you call it. Yes, this man started banging his language arts teacher, and now they're married. Emmanuel Macron has never been with any woman besides his senior citizen wife. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, but how can you be a French politician and only be with one woman in your life? I'm honestly astounded, but also disappointed in you, sir. Okay, looking at the comments here. Tony Gilbert talks about Shanghai, and it definitely happened. Went to San Fran and they saw the tunnels they used. Yep, the old Barbary Coast. Tony Gilbert says, I wouldn't advise going to San Francisco. It's the most dirty city I've seen. And I'm from Baltimore. I mean, I studied in San Francisco for a bit. It was nice when I went, but yeah, it's literally gone to shit nowadays. Literally and figuratively. Tony Gilbert says France sucks. It's the only country where you can't get paternity testing done because it would, quote, break up too many families. Yes. But everybody's just having sex with everybody in France, I guess. Biff Slankovich says Taylor Swift wins the rights to her catalog. Yes, I did see that. She got her master's. Not her master's degree, but her master recordings, her master tapes. Well, now that she's got that, maybe she can stop nickel and diming me for money every time one of my students wants me to play some of her songs. And seriously, go look that up. Go try to find Taylor Swift sheet music on the internet, for free. It is impossible. Ponythroat says, Brigitte Macron slapped Emmanuel Macron for looking at older women. Geez, one questions how old those women were. Yes. Yeah, somebody posted a picture in the immediate afterwards, presumably in the immediate afterwards of the event, of Emmanuel Macron just furiously clenching his fist in rage, wanting to just starch his wife. I don't know if he took it out on her when they got home, but maybe he did. Yeah, this apparently happened when they were visiting Vietnam. Perhaps Brigitte just got really upset about the old colonial days and just pie-faced her husband. One wonders what the Vietnamese thought of this. My God, we got colonized by these people. I miss the days when French politicians would die of heart attacks in office while having sex with their mistresses. Can we return to that? Show some dignity, France. Tony Gilbert says, maybe Taylor Swift can stop going to NFL games. Well, I mean, her husband is an NFL player, so I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, you would often see Gisele Bundchen at Tom Brady's games before that unpleasantness happened. Ponythroat said they visited Indochina. Yes, going around all of Indochina, making complete fools of themselves. Well, I mean, really, there was only one fool made. Yeah, staying within the Francosphere, kind of. The border between the Francosphere and the Anglosphere. King Charles III came to Canada. And, of course, he did a land acknowledgement, which seems a bit silly when you're coming out in your multi-$1,000 Armani suit with all your medals and stuff on it. Hey, King Charles grabs his speech with his little tiny Vienna sausage fingers, and he says, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. This land acknowledgement is a recognition of shared history as a nation. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm not going to give back any of this land and go about my business. Apparently, King Charles did not write the speech himself. He was just given it by, I guess Mark Carney or whoever writes speeches in Canada these days. I'm curious as to whether or not, King Charles. Okay, my wife texted me about something. There's one topic in particular I'm going to talk about that's really she's going to be into, so I'll be sure to text her about that. But yes, anyway, with regards to King Charles, how far back is this land acknowledgement going to go? I mean, technically he is German, so is he going to do a land acknowledgement for the Anglo-Saxons in the Norman conquest? Or the Anglo-Saxons for the Celtic conquest? Or the Celtic conquest for the Tuatha De Danann conquest? Or whatever, like, little hobbits lived in, the British Isles before the Celts came. It's, I don't know, this is what I've always said about the whole land acknowledgement thing. It's like, yeah, you should acknowledge the bad parts of your history. And you should acknowledge that, your country has blood on your hands, as my country does and most countries do. But my question is, how far back do you go for this? I would love to see just, like, the greatest hits of land acknowledgement. Just everybody going back and back and back and back until we're all just, we're just apologizing to a bunch of, hairy-breasted mongoloids in the Olduvai Valley slamming rocks together. So I'm sure there's a couple of them we can apologize to, because really it all goes back to them if you think about it. Somebody puts it best in the thread. I wonder if he does a land acknowledgement when he goes to Belfast. Well said. I mean, if you want to be technical, these lands were ceded to both Canada and the United States, or British North America as it would have been called back then. It wasn't independent until 1867. Yeah, not a good look, Charles. Okay. Biff Stankovic says, Sacre Bleu Manuel. It's Emmanuel, sir. Tony Gilbert says, I remember that guy. I learned about him in history class. Yes. Ponythroat says, Force of Scots built another Mystery of the Druids-looking William Wallace statue out of principle. Yeah, I really love when the Scottish, and the Irish for that matter, try to act like, we're the oppressed indigenous people, a blue, blue, blue. As if, Jocko and Hamish and Haggis and Pat and Patty weren't on the front lines of every campaign the British Empire ever fought. But they just choose to ignore that. Tony Gilbert says, the most celebrated holiday in the world is independence from England. Yes, that is absolutely true. And actually, that happened a couple of weeks ago in my class. I was talking about, the decolonization period from the 50s and 60s. And no, I did not show clips of Africa audio in my class, even though I really wanted to. But yes, I mentioned, Kenya had the Mau Mau Rebellion. 300,000 deaths later, the British were out. A young lady in my class asked, why is it always the British? Well, my dear, there's those three factors that made Britain the greatest imperial power of all time. British weather, British food, and British women. They gave British men the power to be the greatest colonizers and imperialists the world has ever known. Interpret that as you will. Okay. Moving on from that. Yeah, today's not going to be a super long stream. Let's see what else we got going on. Oh, speaking of a tiny-fingered Vulgarian, speaking of King Charles, the New York Times had an interesting article. Speaking of another tiny-fingered Vulgarian, Donald Trump. Why are we ruled by men with little stubby fingers? I don't know. The New York Times says, Trump thinks iPhones can be made in America. That is a fantasy. Because, white people have fatter fingers than Asian people. Yes, I'm serious. This is literally what they said. What does China offer that the United States doesn't? Millions of engineers, a massive seasonal workforce, and small hands. Yes, because obviously phones are made just with hands. We need little tiny baby hands to get... pliers exist, guys. And, tools. We have these things called tools where you can, do things and you don't have to use your bare hands. Supply chain experts say young Chinese women, I'm going to assume that young women means children, have small fingers, and that has made them a valuable contributor to iPhone production. They're more nimble at installing screws and other miniature parts in the small device. We can't find people with these skills in America. Boy, those worthless Americans with their big fat sausage fingers just cramming peanut butter and mayonnaise in their mouths. They can't screw together tiny screws. This is why we got to go to China and, undercut the labor market. So says the New York Times. Hey, Tony Gilbert says the Windrush generation thing. It pisses me off. They're trying to kick all those folks out when they built England after the war. I mean, it makes me laugh when the British lecture America about being racist, and then when the Windrush people came, they literally rioted because none of the English people wanted to live near them. Sour grapes you can call it, but I find it funny. Ponythroat says, imagine thinking anybody has hands small enough to place 14 nanometer transistors. Yeah, like there's these things called tools, New York Times. I mean, I know that the, hoity-toity Manhattanites who read the New York Times probably don't do much manual labor, but there's these things called tools you can use if you can't, get the leverage or dexterity enough with your bare hands. Ponythroat says, another reason to bring back child labor is if we didn't have enough already. I mean, I can't say I agree with that. But yeah, this is, honestly, this is pretty blatantly saying, like, we need child labor. I love when the mask comes off and the upper classes basically talk about how we need slavery back. Which, they will say, if you get them talking enough. I'm just saying, I have a series of very tiny jeweler's screwdrivers I use for my musical instruments and also fixing my glasses. But I think The Simpsons put it best. The fingers you've used to dial are too fat. To obtain a special dialing stylus, please smash the keypad with your hand now. Speaking of cartoons, I think King of the Hill made a very similar joke where the principal is like, Connie shouldn't wrestle. Why does she do gymnastics? Asian girls have little tiny feet. So the balance beam will be wide as a sidewalk. What was once a joke in cartoons is now serious policy. I believe this is also traditionally how Persian rugs were made, by little tiny children's hands. Ponythroat says, speaking of tech, I upgraded my PC from Windows 11 to Windows 10. Well, I mean, I think that's technically an upgrade, yes. I'm just saying, if Windows had just, souped up XP to make it, faster and stronger, they would clean house on OSs, personally speaking. Let's see what else do we have going on here. Okay, more on American politics. Moron and morons. Some good things happened, some bad things happened. Breaking news is that Skittles is removing titanium dioxide from all products sold in the United States. So I guess Robert F. Kennedy is getting what he wants. Although this does raise some questions. Much like, if you find rats in your house and you use poison, then you have to wonder how many rats were in there. Similarly, it's good that the titanium dioxide is being taken out of the candy, but I do have to ask, why was there titanium in the candy to begin with? Grok says, titanium dioxide was used to make the colors brighter. Perhaps we should not have titanium in our candy. Guess we're going to go back to eating Werther's Originals, I guess. I mean, RFK does seem to be doing pretty good for himself, despite having, brain worms or whatever. He seems like he's in pretty good shape. So, good for him. Him and his Kermit the Frog voice. And this is why I tend to eat chocolate more than sugar candies because, a good chocolate just has chocolate in it. Hey, Pony Throat says, I can do delicate electronic work just fine. I have hooves, so it's probably a skill issue. Pony Throat says, Windows 11 is an OS that people only use because it came with their system and was not so obviously terrible. They felt the need to change it. It's the Windows 2000 of the 2020s. Like I said, just soup up XP, Microsoft, and you'll do really good for yourself. Biss Lankovich says, Joni Ernst says we're all going to die, so keep cutting that Medicaid. Bart, I think we're all going to die. Lisa, we're all going to die. I meant soon, Bart. Yeah, me too. Boy, it's amazing how The Simpsons is continuing to be relevant 30 years after that episode came out. Okay. Ponythroat says, titanium dioxide is a bleaching agent that makes other colors pop by removing impurities. Also used in paint. Favored by Bob Ross. Tony Gilbert says, Robert F. Kennedy does have a Kermit voice. I just saw Kermit at my alma mater. Good to know, sir. Yes, speaking of American political news, J.D. Vance said the American space program to put a man on the moon was built by American citizens. The idea that we don't have the talent to do great things, they have to have a foreign servant class, I reject that. To an extent, I agree. Everybody flooded the comments. What about Operation Paperclip, Werner von Braun? I mean, I would like to point out that the Apollo program had 400,000 people, and there were about 1,000 imported European rocket scientists. So, I do believe the majority of them were, in fact, American citizens. Secondly, I'm pretty sure that, how do I put this politely? The illegal immigrant who delivers DoorDash probably isn't going to be putting men on the moon anytime soon, is all I'm saying. I mean, personally, I agree. Maybe we should nurture and inculcate homegrown talent. And if necessary, we bring in people who really have the skills from other countries. But just opening up the floodgates doesn't seem like a good idea. And as I've said before, this is an example of, the Trump administration varying between doing sensible things and doing really stupid things. I mean, they have a good run sometimes by doing things like this. And then they say, screw Medicaid. I genuinely think Trump might be an idiot savant. Yes. Tony Gilbert says, without the Germans, we may not have won. We did the work, they had the knowledge. I mean, the Soviets, they took even more German scientists than we did. So, I guess our Germans were better than theirs. And even von Braun was like, guys, we should give Robert Goddard some credit. Robert Goddard being a, waspy Puritan scion from Massachusetts who directly inspired von Braun's rocketry. Okay, then Pony Throat and Tony Gilbert argue about the uselessness of the V-2 rocket, the usefulness or lack thereof. The railgun, that worked. Yeah, the sun gun did not work. The Bell, die Glocke, that silliness did not work. Okay, let's see what we have going on. Okay, are we going to go to the silly side of things? In a little bit. Okay, on Twitter there's a thread about how a literary agent told me that teens can't read third-person omniscient tense anymore. That's unfortunate. I mean, are the kids just reading first-person novels? I don't know. Is it the third person or the omniscient part they don't understand? I mean, I've talked about this a lot, but boy, the children can't read anymore. And it's not great. So says Tech Khan. In maybe 15 or 20 years, modern politics will essentially be medieval. We will be arguing here, fighting over the illiterate 5 to 10% over what to tell the unwashed illiterates what to think. But then again, perhaps maybe that's what the world has always been. Are we returning to, the glory days of just unwashed peasants slopping about? Yeah, probably. I know I said this a couple weeks ago, but yeah, my most reactionary political position is that, not everybody should be allowed to vote. Obviously I would not limit it based on race or, ethnicity or religion or sexuality. But, I think being able to, read or do high school level problem solving would probably be a good part of being allowed to vote. Tony Gilbert says, yes, they always forget Goddard. Yes, they do. Okay, let's get to the silly side of things. A Turkish influencer, famous for marrying herself, kills herself at the age of 26. Was she in an abusive relationship with herself? I mean, probably in a manner of speaking. I don't know what exactly this whole idea was. I guess she was trying to show how happy she was by marrying herself. In the same way that Anita Sarkeesian married herself. I believe I said that when Ms. Sarkeesian did that. This is the saddest thing I've ever seen. But I guess someone beat her to the, suicidal despair of marrying oneself. Okay. This woman, something Akut, left behind a suicide note. I jumped on my own free will because I don't want to live anymore. Take good care of Fiststick. I assume that's her pet. I was good to everyone in my life. I couldn't be good to myself. Living as a good person gave me nothing. Okay, I've been struggling for days, but no one noticed. I'm living because I love myself, and I want to think about myself for once. I'm sorry. Kubra Akut. How surprised are you now, right? My phone password, 145723. I mean, I shouldn't make fun of this young woman killing herself, but when you're an influencer who's trying to show how happy you are, and then you just hero yourself, it's very darkly funny. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. Tony Gilbert says, kids can't read, they have no imagination. It's a tragic combination. Yes, it is. Tony Gilbert says, the V2 could not have been less effective a weapon. It was so bad the British wanted them to launch more because it wasted a lot of stuff. It's more of a propaganda weapon. If the guidance was more effective, it would have been a game changer. Well, yes, but it wasn't. Ponythroat said, poison herself to inherit the divorce money. I assume that's what Derove was trying to say before Ponythroat slapped his hose on the keyboard. Yeah. Okay. Moving on to, actually I have quite a lot of things about, relationships this, stream, so to speak. Okay, so something went a bit viral on the Twitters. So says Nicole at dumbtwt7, oh, to be loved by a romantic man. Happy, crying face, heart. A man made a nice little dessert plate and then written in chocolate syrup in nice calligraphy, will you be my girlfriend? Question mark. A lot of people like this. Some people didn't. And Allison Taft says that a guy did this to my best friend on the third date. We all laughed at him, called him Mr. Check Yes or No, and she never spoke to him again. Gee, I wonder why men aren't romantic anymore. It's a mystery. It is a mystery. I understand if you're not feeling it, but literally to just humiliate the guy in public when he tried to give a grand romantic gesture. Why are the men not romantic anymore? I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe because every time a man tries to be romantic and do a grand gesture, some nagging yenta and her cackling hens will humiliate him in public. I mean, thankfully my wife isn't like this. She would appreciate that sort of thing, but I hate to say it, but boy, there's a reason why all throughout history men have limited women's options and sort of kept them down. Maybe because stuff like this happens sometimes. Ew, he did a romantic gesture. Oh, I'm getting the ick. At Bumbadum14 took his retribution a little far. And I quote, this is not me. So many women have this endless confusion of if he wanted to, he would, and then when he does, they harass him for doing it. Your friend could have had a wonderful relationship with a caring man who's whimsical and loves romance. You and your disgusting harpies ruin that. You don't deserve love. You don't deserve romance. You deserve what you've had your whole life. Endless pump and dumps making you a miserable bitch. You deserve to be abused and used and treated like a dumpster you are. You will never know the warmth of romance. You will cry every night alone, spiritually empty, unfulfilled in the public transit hostel you call your bedroom. Geez, sir, why don't you tell her how you really think? Yeah, where have all the good men gone? It's a mystery. Let's check out some comments before I talk about something that's very related to this. Tony Gilbert says, LOL. Ponythroat says, I bet Miss Taft has a physical appearance that matches her last name. And she's not quite as fat as William Howard Taft. Tony Gilbert says, I feel bad for that dude. That couldn't be me. I'm glad I've been married for so long I couldn't imagine in this day and age. Yes, I'm very lucky to have found my wife when I did, because it's rough out there. Okay, so some women are asking where are the good men gone. Apparently, some women's idea of a good man is some 6'8" elf lord with a giant wiener. So says the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, what hot dragon riders and fornicating fairies say about what women want right now. Yes, we're talking about fairy porn again. Or fairy smut, as my wife insists. Okay, so, bit of a joke, but okay. Romantasy novels are booming when romance in general is in decline. So says Anna Louise Sussman of the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, this is pretty sus, all right. Okay, let's see. Sales in the romantasy genre have electrified the publishing industry, including for a Lauren Nauheimer, who was a 40-year-old lady who had not been in a relationship for 7 years before she was electrified by the works of Sarah J. Maas to get back in the dating game. Okay, it's, heroines wield lightning, ride dragons, and read minds, all while having sexual encounters that rarely stop at one orgasm. Well, that's a good thing, of course. When love is finally consummated after rising stakes and a great deal of tension, lovers fight the forces of darkness together. Alright, good to know. Okay, let's see. Sales in the genre, electrify the publishing industry. These stories are clearly answering a profound need amongst their largely female readership. What is it? I'm sorry, what relevance does this have to Wall Street? I mean, I guess Penguin. Does Penguin have an IPO? Or Penguin Publishing, or whoever publishes these books? I don't know. These books kind of get big on Book Talk, the Rebecca Yarros and Sarah J. Maas books. Okay, let's see. Now, personally speaking, I think they're fine for what they are. I mean, they're obviously targeted for the broads. But, yeah, they're cool. Find your audience, fit your audience. Okay, Now, personally, I mean, it's all right in my eyes. Personally, I mean, I prefer fantasy to romantasy. Give me Robert Howard or Fritz Lieber, but I don't judge people who read this stuff. Okay, let's see. Anyway, the point I'm trying to get at here is the rise of romantasy comes at a time when romance in general appears to be in decline in the U.S. But first, let's look at some comments. Tony Gilbert says Penguin got bought by Random House quite a long time ago. Well, yes, you can clearly see how out of touch I am with the publishing industry. Tony Gilbert says, who's reading that stuff? Millions of ladies, that's who. Okay. Ponythroat says, why do they want the dragon rider, not the dragon? Well, I mean, someone I'm sure want the dragon. I mean, there's, we can all talk about the dragon dildos. Perhaps the dragon rider knows what he's doing. My wife says romantasy is, it's not bad. Yeah, like I said, some of it's pretty well written, some of it's not. Some of it is just, some of it earns the name elf porn or fairy porn. But, anyway, let's continue. Okay, the rise of these books comes at a time when romance in general appears to be in decline in America. A European observer once told me that American men and women seem to just kind of mildly hate each other. Yeah, there's some of that. Okay, let's see. Okay, a picture of a lot of women reading Onyx Storm. Okay. Okay, mind reading and mental bonds figure quite prominently. They're a big part of the appeal. You always want to know what your partner's thinking. This probably relates to a time when many people are in situationships. The fantasy of total transparency and romantic communication might be especially refreshing for these readers. As I said, okay, fated to be together biologically or spiritually. Okay. It bears noting that the men in these books are still alpha males who can, wreck your ass if they have to. But they're also understanding sexually. So, yeah. In other words, it's basically what I myself advocate. Be a nice man who's also capable of, caving somebody's face in, and the women will like you. Okay. Romantasy has paramount to have sexual consent. Okay, okay, and we go on and on and on about this. Yes, where are the hulking elf lords with giant cocks? Where have all the good men gone? So, yeah, keep looking, ladies. Keep searching for that rainbow. Okay, for Nauheimer, the lady I mentioned up front. I always said when looking for a man is like, she paused, I'm looking for a man written by women. Yeah. Well, it is a fantasy for a reason. I mean, yeah, men have their fantasies too. And there's nothing wrong with a bit of fantasizing so you know what you want. But, I think it's good, sisters doing it for themselves and all that. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like this could go wrong if you get a little too into it. And that goes for men, too. I mean, men with their, parasocial OnlyFans relationships and, there's been multiple cases where men, kill themselves on behalf of their AI girlfriends, or at least one case I remember. Some kid got talked into killing himself by an AI Amelia Clark. And similarly, the book talk girlies got a little too into their book boyfriends. Now, a book boyfriend can mean a boy who is into books, or it could mean some, hog-packing elf lord who you fantasize about. Just keep one foot in reality, ladies, and gentlemen, for that matter. I do have to say, though, I do find it kind of funny how it's gotten to the point where the male fantasy is literally just a woman who looks nice and is nice to you, which, is not listening in the next room because she is. But no, I seriously, these are sincere feelings. But yeah, it's like there was a Twitter post that went viral. Like, men are easy, just be nice to them. Many women fail at this task. Whereas when women fantasize, they're really fantasizing. Ponythroat says, it's like 50 Shades of Grey. Had Christian Grey been in a trailer park, it would not be a romance. It would be an episode of Criminal Minds. Again, yes, it is a fantasy. Yes. Oh, and speaking of fantasy and something that went from mildly good to total shit, speaking of something that's really near and dear to my heart, yes, that's right, we're talking about the still in development hell Legend of Zelda movie. Here we go. So says Screen Time at Screen Time. Hunter Schafer is reportedly being eyed to play Princess Zelda in the movie. Hunter Schafer is a transsexual. How about no? I mean, I'm taking solace in the fact that Screen Time is notorious for being wrong often. But, yeah, no. How about no? How about... I said this on Twitter, but if this actually happens, which I don't think will happen, but if it does, like one of my prized possessions is an original copy of Link's Awakening for the Game Boy. I own a copy of Hyrule Historia. On video, I will smash them with sledgehammers and light them on fire if they do this, and I'm not joking. Now, I don't know which games they're adapting. I mean, I hope they take my idea and do the Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask Twilight Princess saga. But, gee, I always was a ranch shipper, but I guess that's another point Melan has over Zelda. Melan does not have a big fat cock swinging between her legs. I can feel my wife, like, groaning as I say this. Tony Gilbert says, oh no, they can't find Zelda really. I don't know, apparently there's not enough, like, waifish blonde girls to play a fairy tale princess. Gotta get some dude. Again, I don't think this is going to happen, but this, like, legit makes me angry. The transgenders were like, oh, but she looks just like her. She looks vaguely like Twilight Princess Zelda in certain angles, as long as she's at, like, a 45-degree angle. Boy, I just hope in this movie Princess Zelda doesn't, stand straight at the camera or talk or walk or, like, do anything. Every picture I've seen of Hunter Schafer is taken at very specific angles with pounds of pancake makeup to hide the doodliness of this dude. Go look up some pictures of Hunter Schafer from the front. No offense to this person, but he's got a big fat shovel chin, which makes no effort to hide the fact that he is biologically a man. Ponythroat asks, are they doing this because of Sheik? Yeah, that's another thing they bring up. Well, I mean, Zelda, she's, like, gender fluid. Oh, you mean when she disguised herself as a man to avoid being murdered? Yeah, that's totally the same thing. It's always that. It's always that, or the Breath of the Wild cross-dressing. That's all they cite. That's always what they cite. My wife drinks some coffee. Thank you, darling.
See, I'm nice.
I never said you weren't nice. So, I guess it's come to the point where, if, fans of Star Wars and, like, superheroes and stuff, they've seen their favorite franchises just get run to the ground, they're just shat upon, so I guess it's my turn now. Yeah, this legitimately makes me angry. Again, I don't think this is going to happen, but, yeah, Nintendo, can you, like, you have to end this now. Like, just do whatever you have to do. I've given you several suggestions. make Link look like he used to look like when he had, like, muscles and he looked like he could fight instead of being some little bitch with little noodle arms. Can you, like, stop doing that? That would really be appreciated. Thanks. You don't have to necessarily take my idea to make him, like, this hypersexual chud who, like, macks on women constantly. I mean, I would like that, but, you know, you don't have to. But yeah, I mean, I guarantee you this movie will fail and fail hard if they do this. I don't know why it's not animated to begin with. Hey, Nintendo, remember how you totally dominated the last generation console war with the Switch? Yeah, let's just shoot yourself in the foot right now. Because, you know, why bother winning a second time? And of course, the people who support this are people who don't play the games and have no knowledge beyond looking at TikToks of the one-time Link cross-dressed and the one-time Zelda cross-dressed. Two different generations, two different incarnations of these bodhisattva-like characters. I literally see this. Like, every game has a cross-dressing scene. No, it doesn't, you flaming mo. Boy, this is a bunch of bundles of sticks, and we need to stop it. Okay. Pony Throat, referring to Romantic, says, this billionaire dragon rider could only be hot if he was also a serial killer. Perhaps. Pony Throat says they should get Jack Black to play Tingle. Yeah, there's a bunch of... I always thought Patton Oswalt could be a good Tingle if you had to do live action. He's got the, like, kind of pudgy red nose and stuff. Yeah, I still don't even know who could play Link. Like, I always said, like, a young Patrick Swayze would have been good. Or maybe, like Devin Sawa or someone like that. Yeah, I would say young Tom Cruise. I mean, he basically did play Link in 1985. That's a whole different story. But, yeah. You need, or hell, like, I've always said get, like, an Olympic gymnast. Some blonde, like, Olympic gymnast to play Link, and that's literally, like, the perfect physique. Obviously, you'd have to teach him how to act. That's a whole different issue. Pony Throat says Link's going to pull down her skirt, see the 12 inches of peen flopping out, and he's be like, well, excuse me, princess. Tony Gilbert says, makes me mad too. Shame on the big N for letting the idea happen. Sega would never let something like that happen. And Tony Gilbert remarked about the flaming Mo. I was about to say something very offensive, which could be construed as offensive, I should say. And I changed the F to flaming Mo instead. You can interpret that as you will. Look, I have nothing against Hunter Schafer as a person. I'm sure she is very nice. But yeah, can we keep the transsexuals out of the Legend of Zelda, please? You know, you might be wondering why am I so concerned about a video game franchise, but I've said this before and I'll say it again. I didn't have the happiest childhood in the world, and Zelda was sort of there to kind of bolster me and give me strength and hope and ideas of heroism and chivalry and stuff. And yeah, to see it turned into a bunch of, you know, I'm so angry I can't even speak. To see the franchise turn into a gay pride parade makes me a little upset. Seriously, why is this not animated? Yes, and I don't know who's going to play Ganondorf. Unfortunately, Tony Todd is no longer with us. Alphamarica says it's a BS rumor. I mean, that's what I'm assuming, but yeah. The fact that this is a rumor is even that's like bad enough. Hey, you have my guarantee. If this actually does happen, I will light my copy of Hyrule Historia on fire. And I will smash my original copy of Link's Awakening for the Game Boy with a sledgehammer. You watch. Like, I'll do it. Tony Gilbert says, I don't know why it isn't animated either. That makes no sense. And yes, Tony Todd would be a badass Ganon. I agree. Yeah, good luck playing him in live action. Yes, hello, dapper, debonair Arab gentleman playing Ganondorf. Here's a bucket full of horse steroids. The man's canonically 7'6" and built like a brick shithouse. Pornithroat says, Ori grew up in zany poverty, but all the games I played were 90s shooters. No hope and light there. Well, I mean, you could get some inspiration from Doom or Duke Nukem. You know, I played plenty of those. You know, Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. Alpha Riga says Link is not a twin because they'd be shown in harem protagonist. I mean, look, like, he's always been a pretty boy with long hair, but, like, in the games and stuff, like, in the mangas, he was built. He looked like he could fight. I hate how Breath of the Wild makes him look like some skinny little bitch. And finally, a woman in okay, we're getting off the video games here. A woman in Australia claims that her ex farted in her face and gave her a 7-year-long E. coli infection in her sinuses. Apparently, she was laying down. Her ex just bent over, just spread his cheeks, and just let it rip. She was in the hospital from surgery, and she got E. coli. Yep, that's all I got to say now. I mean, I assume it was a really wet fart, because you don't get E. coli just from air. I got so distracted talking about this abomination they're doing to the Legend of Zelda franchise, but yeah, I forgot to talk about Australian fart nonsense. Alpha Marigi says Miyamoto requested Link have a harem in Ocarina of Time. Yes, originally it was supposed to have like dating sim elements, but they cut that out. They didn't have the time. You know, I feel like if they did make it more explicit, that would put to pat a lot of this crap about Link being gay or a transsexual or whatever. You know, I mean, it's pretty heavily implied that he gets with the broads in other games. Now, I did read that they are planning on doing a trilogy of these movies, so maybe they will take my idea, where the final movie is like Link's Unforgiven, where he's like a middle-aged man, you know, dying heroically in combat. Ponythroat says, let's not forget the time he had sex with those prostitutes to restore his GP. Sorry, his HP, like a GTA protagonist. And then the old lady. Ponythroat says, I think adding dating sim elements would have made the game worse. I mean, it would have been like a little side quest. Like, didn't Final Fantasy VII have a little bit of dating sim stuff? If I recall correctly. And it didn't take a major lot of time away from the game. But yes, if they do in fact cast a transgender in this movie, I will be done with this franchise and I will like fire it up. Alpha Maria says a huge part of the lore is the Link's descent from one another. Yes. The Twilight Princess Link, again, is explicitly stated to be a descendant of the Ocarina of Time Link, which meant that Ocarina of Time Link, you know, got down and knocked up some broad. Ponythroat says Tony Shalhoub should play Ganon. And no. Has Tony Shalhoub ever played a villain? I don't think he has. Anyway, yeah, that does it for my prepared remarks. You can say your last pieces now if you want. Okay, nobody has anything to say. So for Larsen Halleck, this is Larsen Halleck. An hour right on the dot. Have a good day, everybody.